Hello, and welcome to the Litmus Test, where we test things so you don't have to. I'm your host, Pete, and this is my compadre, Blake. Blake, how you doing today?
I'm pretty good. How about you?
I've seen better days, recovering from a broken foot. We touched on this in our pilot cast.
Yes, which probably won't air, but maybe someday.
Maybe we can add that to a vault that people can pay extra money for.
Maybe so, yeah.
One day.
$100, something
nominal,
something really chump change.
Really shooting for the stars here.
Yeah.
It's $99 on sale.
Yes, for a 20-minute video.
I mean, it's not bad.
That shows nothing.
Hopefully, 20 years from now, when $100 is worth $1.
Probably, yeah.
I mean, it'll come full circle.
Yeah, I'd imagine.
Like prophetically, but yeah, I've seen better days. Recovering. Luckily, we've got this brand new cast that we're trying to start up here. Blake, I know that a lot of our listeners might be just tuning in for the first time. Maybe they heard through the grapevine, friend, family member, and they want to get to know about us a little bit,
right?
And what the podcast is trying to portray. So why don't you just take the reins on this and tell our listeners about that?
So I guess probably the easiest way to describe it is the litmus test is more of a filter that we can provide for everybody, or rather just like a check against all of the information that comes at us, be it...
It's a lot of information.
Right. I mean, the internet has changed everything the way that we view, or rather what we even are fed. Forcefully or not, but it's either society has decided something, culture has decided something, the government says something, or some corporations say something. There's going to be a narrative that gets pushed towards people. So, like, let's just say, for instance, I'm on a kick of the carnivore diet. Now, I don't necessarily want to try to get into the carnivore diet discussion, but where did this information come from? Well, obviously YouTube videos. Nowhere else would I have learned about the carnivore diet. Probably nobody else would be learning about the carnivore diet except that one weird guy, Frank, who brings steaks to work only every single day.
In a Ziploc bag.
Right.
Yes. He microwaves it for 1 minute on each side. And it comes out a perfect medium rare every time. So
this is information that is like, it. I mean, to me, it's fascinating. Because when I was like 10, I probably shouldn't do this, but just real quickly about the carnivore diet. When I was like 10, if you were to tell me that you could even survive off of just red meat, or let's say if I was 15 years old and someone told me that, I would think you're crazy.
Or that Captain
Because
Planet.
my mom was relatively extremely healthy. We had wheat bread. I have no soda in my house.
Wheat bread?
Wheat. So
that's an H in front of a W.
What I'm trying to say is, like, I never would have thought that was possible. Anyways, so that information gets pushed to me, and then I'm like, well, now I got to do at least a little bit of research.
Yes, and by research you mean Googling.
Yes.
I mean, it's not in a derogatory way.
I mean, what else? Do you really want me to whip out the encyclopedia and then start learning about
the library?
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? The library is going to direct you to a computer.
The library is the internet now.
And it's just
exactly. So me being able to kind of just take that hit for everybody else, if I will. Building myself up a little too much, or building ourselves up a little too much, obviously, joking, but I would like to, be able to kind of just look into some things that are more cultural phenomenons, and then be like, just give our 2 cents about it. And I think that's really what the litmus test is just kind of seeing what's happening around us and just commenting on it. And when you break it down like that sounds really boring, but I mean, better podcasts have been made off of less. So I like the idea of just commenting about something. Also, I mean, this is basically therapy for both of us.
Sure.
Just being able to talk to people real life, physically, face to face.
Absolutely.
Outside of work.
We're actually standing right within inches of each other's faces. Just I can taste his breath.
Yeah. It's probably too close.
My therapist says that I need it, though.
Yeah.
You need hot male breath on your tongue.
Yeah. We're bringing platonic love back.
Yes, that's what it is. Love yourself, and then grab another middle-aged friend like yourself, and just breathe hot air into their mouth, and you too will be happier.
Yep.
But getting back to the actual cause of why we started this podcast, it's also to just bring a common sense approach to a lot of things that come at you in a very polarized, a vacuum, and just trying to beat some humor into it, I think, and make us laugh at ourselves, make us not take ourselves too seriously, and try and find some common ground, but also laughing, and commiserating a little bit, because I've always found that when you can commiserate with somebody and laugh about a similar misery, it bonds you, and I feel like if we can find that middle ground and be the quote unquote social litmus test that we're trying to portray to our listeners, I hope someone gets something out of this. But I also hope that you laugh. And if you're feeling bored, I hope we entertain you.
Of course. And just kicking off of what you just said with common sense, I think it's important to delineate the phrase or the axiom of common sense and like the literal two words, common sense. Like, we are the common man. Sure. I mean, there is nothing exceptional about us. No offense.
Yeah, no.
There's nothing insanely extraordinary about us. I mean, I do believe that I'm the smartest guy on earth, but nothing outside, the realm,
Nothing that you tell people.
Right.
Out loud.
No, but like, I like to think that, I think I'm a pretty smart guy, blah, blah, blah. But I know for a fact deep down that I am basically the same as 99% of other humans. And if I can be someone who just voices my opinion, which other people say, oh, that makes sense because, because we probably have the same perspective, you and I for sure, and then also just like everybody else.
Yeah, no, you got to think about it like this, man. That right now the most lucrative podcasters and podcasts themselves are very polarized voices, and people that I guess are saying things that are kind of against the grain, and half the time I don't even know if people believe half the things that they say. I mean it. And it's concerning because like this is all this theater that we see, I guess, on it's kind of like I think I'm not sure if I was talking about it with you, but like Mayweather and McGregor, like feigning this rivalry with one another, and then they fight, and then at the end of it they're laughing to the bank together with 500 mil between the two of them, and it's just like this big theater that I feel like media does to keep us distracted from the other things that that really matter, i.e. and something, Blake, I know you feel strongly about as well, but just like having clean water and clean air, and just like a future to inhabit, so
I'm super anti clean air and clean water. You're right that I do feel strongly
he
about
does
this.
Feel strongly about it. What you don't know is that Blake was a former EPA lobbyist.
Yes.
And let's just say I won't name which presidency, all right, but it wasn't that long ago. But with that all being said, we hope that we do provide you guys as the litmus test for a common sense approach to the information that gets shoved down your throat, and as we gain a following, I hope that you guys can maybe send in some ideas, topics, things that you want to kind of just a calm approach to in a funny way that we could talk about, and we'll get to that bridge when we come to it.
Agreed.
All right, but the first topic, Blake, I believe we wanted to talk a little bit, speaking about the environment and pollution and its consequences. I feel like a lot has been made of children developing certain disorders, whether it be from anything that we're knowingly inserting into our children, right? Injecting into our children, whether they be vaccines or medications, pharmaceuticals, etc. But we're not looking a little bit further at the fact that this all comes down to what we every day eat, breathe, and inhale. And I feel very strongly about the fact that we're not as concerned with that as we should be.
Yeah, I think one of the most important things to bring up before I even get into specifics is that when people talk about the past and they think, I can't believe that they did those things.
Sure.
One of the most important things to remember is that there were very evil people before. Yeah. Why do you think it stopped all of a sudden?
No,
So why do you think that all of a sudden some corporation or even the government or even both of them working together would decide, oh, you know what, and now we're better people? So I'm not saying that everybody's Hitler out there, obviously, but let's just assume that evil did not die in 1945.
Sure.
And there are people who are doing very, very mischievous things, like paying off the government to allow certain things to happen. So let's not get into, I mean, I really don't even have specifics on that right away, but like, let's just assume.
No, but that's, I mean, ultimately it comes down to when you've got corporations lobbying against looser regulations for the environment, right? I mean, it's really, you don't have to dig that deep to look at that.
Right.
I mean, that's really in front of your face. It's been documented.
Right.
And like, I get that wealthy people have different, priorities than you and I have. You know, their priorities might be like, man, what foreign vehicle am I driving today? Like, that's their thing. It's just they wake up and they think like that. And not to, again, that's their thing, bro. Listen, if you made your money, you know, honestly, which, you know, I really don't feel like you become a billionaire by honestly getting there, especially in today's day and age.
I would disagree, but I also I can't say that every single billionaire is perfect, because for sure, obviously not.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that there's not every single billionaire is evil.
Do you also feel like people that actually obtain that level of wealth, don't you feel like it's a certain type of person that is able to get there? They have some sociopathic tendencies.
Yeah, probably.
You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, of course.
Like a really good surgeon, you know, is a sociopath. You know, like in my opinion, just because they know what they're doing.
It's a tendency for them to be
right. You know what I mean? It's like certain professions.
Well, that's already been established, that people who are millionaires, or let's say, I think the study was actually CEOs, are sociopaths, or rather psychopaths.
Yes.
Because they have a fanatic look on life where they're like, okay, well, to get to this point, I just need to work 90-hour work weeks.
Yep.
And that's how you would do it. But a normal person with a normal brain would be opposed to 90-hour work weeks, because that would also mean that whatever life partner that they choose will have to be okay with that, which diminishes your dating pool by like a factor of 70. I don't know. Like, you would have basically 1% of the population that you would have been dating now is reduced down to maybe a handful of women that would be okay with that.
But that's how powerful their desire for wealth and status is. You know, it's they're willing to overlook that.
The reason they would even believe that is what they want. Well, yeah, I guess the desire is there for everybody.
Sure.
The desire to actually do that is definitely different.
No, and absolutely, but more specifically, when we're talking about the environment, I feel like no matter what side of the aisle you come down from, you know, or you're you know, one of them independents, you know what I mean? Those rare breeds of independence.
Right.
You know, definitely not trying to hint at anything here, but with that being said, I feel like the environment is everyone's problem at the end of the day. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You can't really take a stance on it.
Yeah.
When we're talking about the environment, it's everybody's environment. It doesn't matter what side of the aisle that you're coming down. And that's like certain things that should be so bipartisan in nature. It's just, again, a common sense approach to certain things.
Right.
Like the EPA should have its complete authority to tell us, again, if it wasn't corrupted. Who knows if this agency is corrupted or not, too, though. That's how you...
I do.
It's being rhetorical, but thank you for hammering that home, Blake. But Blake just blew a nice cinnamon flavored. What is that? Is that Golden Grams vape flavor?
Something like no. It's that's like strawberry kiwi, I believe.
He's like if I
another social contagion that I partake in that I'm like just gonna willingly ignore.
That's all right. That's all right. At least as long as you get to pollute my lungs while you do it, that's what matters.
Pollution's so good.
But again, talking about the environment and all that stuff, air, water, food, you know, and the prevalence, we're talking about testosterone being at an all-time low, right?
Yep. And I think that was really the main discussion, because pollution is like, that's a very large subject. So confining it down to what if pollution is, let's say, affecting our hormones.
Yeah.
So that's a good. So that was really the main discussion that we want, or topic that we wanted to discover or discuss was, especially in men, it seems that I forget which study what it was, but basically about the last 50 years, men whom which were tested back then, we are now 50% less testosterone than our 50-year-old counterparts. So, or people whom which were alive 50 years ago, men. And so that is not normal, and I highly doubt that ever happened in human history. I'm sure there were variations up and down 10% based off of just certain different socioeconomic or cultural or whatever, or different countries, cultures, and stuff like that. But I highly doubt there was ever a time in history where the one of the sexes had such a massive hormonal change.
Yeah.
And really, the only thing that I can think of is what we have done to our diet in the past 50 years is pretty amazing. But we've introduced a serious amount of seed oils, processing and packaging within plastic all the time. Even the drink that I'm drinking right now, even though it's an aluminum can,
pure cancer.
There's usually a plastic lining in all of the aluminum cans that we drink out of.
That's something that not a lot of people know, Blake, especially beers, very acidic.
Right. And so what I'm trying to say is, do I have any evidence of that right away? No, but that is the only thing that I can think of, is that our whole diet is basically 100% different from your grandmother and grandfather, in which they ate butter, eggs, steak, by all means. But that is really the main thing that I can think of.
Sorry, guys, we're having some technical issues here. Blake forgot to silence his phone.
Yes, I did.
That's what happens.
For the first podcast, I feel like we have to do these things.
I mean, why don't we start a little jar, and every time we do a little bugaboo, we throw 5 cents into it. And by the end of it, we can buy a stick of gum.
Yes.
At the end, a whole stick of gum.
Well, we'll just reinvest it into the podcast. So lighting, cameras, stuff like this.
Yes, battery chargers.
Yep. But yeah, what do you think about what I just said? Where basically, like, that's my opinion is that effectively, I think it comes down to our diet.
Yes.
I think.
Yes, I think that when we traded in the convenience of getting a burrito at 2 a.m. for, instead of buying the ingredients the next day at the supermarket at 9 a.m. And making yourself some nice, delicious tacos for lunch, or burritos for that matter, I just feel like we somewhere along the way as a society, we said, I'm cool with this convenience in lieu of, having fresh, quality, whole foods. And people might be like, oh, what's a whole food? To be honest with you, I'm just finding out what a whole food is.
Right.
And even whole grains, what they're talking about. So,
like a whole food is like a whole watermelon, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like so Whole Foods is just at the top of the bracket, right?
Yeah.
Just anything that's actual food product, like even a cut of turkey breast.
Right.
I'm sorry, I should be more specific. Like a whole chicken is, I would say, a whole food.
It's one ingredient, basically.
Exactly. And once you start processing it, if you chop it into its legs, its quarters, I'm really serious.
Really?
Every time you're blading, and handling the chicken, it's getting moved from one place to the other, picking up bacteria, picking up things that are not good for it to pick up. And therefore has to be disinfected again with more chemicals.
Well, but I think, in your home, you're probably fine. But if you're talking about, let's say, a chicken manufacturing plant, that makes sense. Where if you take the thighs off and you used, like, let's say, plastic.
You think that they'd all get processed at the same place. It's not the case. Sometimes plants will get whole chickens from other places, other farms, and they'll process it there, and then they'll send it out. So even though the farm is good, you can send it to a plant that's got a bunch of bacteria on its blades, right? Because it's processing a bunch of different farms. Farm A might be a good farm. Farm B might be a bad farm. But they both get sent to the same processing plant. You know what I'm trying to say? Mm-hmm. So that essentially is that convenience in the supply chain. because I'm not going down to the farm getting a chicken at whole price, chopping its head off, which is what you're supposed to do. Pluck it and then break it down yourself.
Yeah.
That's a whole process. And again, somewhere along the lines, we didn't want to kill chickens. We didn't want to kill pigs. We didn't want to kill cattle. We said, listen, Mr. Butcher, you do the dirty work. But then it went a step further, Blake. We didn't just have Mr. Butcher, Mr. Baker. We said, I want a one-stop shop that does it all. I want to get my brakes changed while I'm having a pizza, and I'm also shopping for a TV for the Super Bowl. And that was the 1980s. Cocaine fueled it. In any form, powdered or rock. And as far as I'm concerned, we really peaked as a society mid-1990s.
I would say yes.
I would say, right?
Yeah.
Just like, and then right after that, it was just like, okay, let's see. Yeah. Let's see how fast we can do
There's
this.
a lot of different reasons as to why, but we should save that topic for another podcast.
110%.
But I love the 80s and 90s. I think that even 70s building up to 80s and 90s,
yes.
I think is agreed.
I feel like 90s we were the last generation that had just enough testosterone.
And just to be clear for everybody, we are both around 30.
Yes.
So, of course, we're going to say the 90s were the best because we were born in that.
Well,
but
I mean, hopefully the crux of our audience is between
I would
the
imagine
ages of 18 to 40. You know?
I wouldn't say hopefully they're not 60 and above, but I don't care what age they are, obviously.
Listen, I'm not discriminating.
Yeah. If you're 78 and you love our podcast, welcome.
I think, honestly, kudos to you for branching out.
Yes.
It'll be like me listening to a crocheting podcast.
Which I do daily. But so back to, I guess, just testosterone and rather, outside of just whole foods, but what else do you think contribute to a loss of 50% over 50 years?
Well, so also plastics. We talk about plastic before, and we can do a whole episode or 7 on microplastics for those of the people that know me that listen to this podcast.
But see, there's also, just because men have lost testosterone, that is a problem in itself, but what other problems happen outside of that? Like, I can think of a few right now, but what do you think of when you think of the fact that we've lost effectively half of the hormones that make us?
So again, these microplastics, if you'd let me finish, Blake, before you rudely interrupted me.
Yeah.
So what I was trying to get at with the microplastics is that they're hormone disruptors.
Yeah.
Once they're inside of our body, they start actually messing with these crucial social, if you want to also say, chemicals that keep us in these defined roles. And I feel like we're so caught up right now as a society on people kind of grooming individuals to think certain things, and whilst that does play a part of kind of quote unquote indoctrinating society, I also think that we are kind of turning a blind eye to the fact that microplastics are in our water supply. They will never come out of our water supply.
Right.
And it's because of selfish corporations that lobbied government bodies to turn a blind eye, and then paid those same people millions of dollars when they welcomed them into their own company after their stint at the EPA as CEOs. And it bothers me that there's no accountability for that. And the fact that we're turning this all into a culture war, when in reality they're poisoning our water. They're feeding that same poisoned, grains, let's just say, right, made with pesticides. We're feeding it to our livestock. We're then ingesting the livestock. And again, wondering why the hell X, Y, and Z wasn't happening 50 years ago. Well, look no further than your local one-stop shop.
Yeah.
TVs were never supposed to be sold where meat is processed and sold. and it's
the TV and chicken store was
right?
not.
It's just
man.
But if God was a person and he came down, he'd be like, this ain't it. This is not what I was going for. He's like, you guys had it for a second.
But to be fair, just to the TV and chicken store, I don't think that it's a bad thing that we have that, but I think that the way that we have, no pun intended, packaged them together, the way that these corporations, I should say businesses, and governments allow this to happen, and that's more of the concern, is that I'm okay with a very, very large store down the street that sells everything. I love that. But do we, as a society, or does our culture pay attention to the way that they fabricate, or I should say, fabricate all of these items? Do we look at that? No, we don't. So it's our fault, really.
It is.
But,
no, it's at the end of the day. We buy the products that keep these people going.
Absolutely.
Because we can save $2
and to be clear too, like
X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, and I think this is something that a lot of people will agree with is that our two ideologies are relatively polar opposites, but I wouldn't even say that. Just maybe kind of the solutions to what we would search or what we would shoot for are different. However, we both identify that currently right now the biggest problem is not just a corporation and not just a government. It's obviously both working together in bed, and then that is what the problem is that we as a society do not point it out enough.
Yeah.
Or what we do is we look at Group A and we say, oh my God, I can't believe these guys did this. And then the other group is now saying, well, Group B's the one who did it. It's like, no, dude, they're all doing it. Let's just humans are humans.
Well, listen, it took
power is power.
I'm not too proud to admit it myself. Like it took me a couple of election cycles before, and working full time as a middle class American, paying my fair share and realizing how bad of a deal we got in all of this, and the fact that one party again on paper would be for one end of the socio-demographic spectrum, and then another party's again slated for the ideology of another, right? And we find ourselves kind of somewhere in the middle, but they make us feel like they're on two different teams. Yeah, they're on the same team.
Well, oftentimes I think I forget which said this, but this is like 20 years ago. But one of the funniest things that I remember learning was oftentimes you'll go into, like, let's say Congress, and you'll hear them arguing about not should we go to war or should we not, rather how much money do we want to put towards the war? 56 billion or 60 billion?
No, of course.
And that's where people think that there's some sort of difference, but there's not.
No.
The fiscally responsible, right side is still going to war. They're still offering, let's say, 56.
Of course, because you get to, you know before anyone else if you're going to war, right? What does that mean? We're going to be buying stocks in X, Y, Z, A, B, C. You know what I mean? And it's like, again, we talk about how we got here with the hormones, right? Because we went into politics. It always comes back to politics.
It always
comes back down to it. But I feel like it's important for us to start talking about this, because I feel like the sooner we can stop pointing the finger at each other, and the sooner we can start, looking at each of them for what they are, and that's money hungry and wanting to keep us
power hungry too,
of course, but wanting to keep us just satiated enough and just distracted enough that we don't have these types of conversations. And I'm glad that we do have a platform that we can start talking about this. I feel like it is important, and it maybe just maybe we can help some people on one side or the other kind of bridge the gap a little. And just understand that we're not so different, you and I.
We both have less testosterone.
That's how we're the same. We both have thinning hair. Our joints are not what they're supposed to be at 30.
I'm definitely experiencing like age already.
Right?
Yeah.
Just every day.
I'll go. We should definitely go into that later. But for sure.
Grays galore, every day, just sprinkled like Santa comes in the night and just goes pop, pop, pop.
But I don't know, do you think that having, like, let's say 100% of testosterone that we should have, do you think that would prevent grays? Because I don't know if grays are a lack of testosterone at all.
I mean, I want to just say I'm looking tired, you know? So I just feel like maybe, just maybe, if my hair follicles saw that my body was feeling nice and good, it'd be like, you know what, like it's just one guy that's like the hair traffic controller. You get it?
Hair
you
traffic
get it? You
controller.
like that one? So he's like, he had a bad day. We're gonna wind up 3 guys. Who's up next? They do a little lottery. They pull it out. They go 769. And 769 is around his family. He's hugging. He's jumping up and down. He's like, it's my time.
So
I'm going.
So
turns gray.
So just kind of go back to one of the questions that I had for you was
sure.
So we have less testosterone.
Yes.
We talked about why we think that is. We both kind of agree that it might be diet, effectively what is going into our body.
Yes.
The evils of that, blah blah blah
and
blah.
Water, just water.
Just water itself.
Just water's gonna be
a
more clean drinking water should be a more scarce.
But also, let's talk about like the effects of it. Like what happens when we have less testosterone? Like it doesn't matter at all if we're all fine, then who cares? But
I feel like
I don't think we're fine.
I feel
what
like
do you think?
if we were on video right now, we could show the world the type of sandals that Blake's wearing, and I feel like 50 years ago, if you showed up to any type of Southern cookout in these, they would quite literally crucify you.
They would because they are Jesus sandals.
I mean, they quite are.
They're sandals that they have straps everywhere. Yes. Thus, when you can run in them. Very important.
They would never come off his foot. How many?
That's important.
It's like
I need to run, but also feel breathable.
Sandals.
Yeah, I want to run, but I also want to feel breathable. You know.
I get it.
Yeah,
I get it.
So, anyways,
your foot looks as though if like you blew it up to a bikini.
Yeah.
Like it looked like it'd be very risque of a bikini. Your foot looks a little slutty right now. Is what I'm trying to say.
I mean, I would say so.
Right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of cordage going around. It's just
maybe what we'll have to do is in second episode or third episodes when we have a camera ready to go,
we'll show
them off. Yeah,
they'll understand my jokes better.
Yeah. Then I could become a foot model, abort the podcast entirely, and make millions off of that. But I don't think I'm gonna have a foot model career.
You know, I don't either.
Yeah,
especially not after this broken
Ashley
foot.
would definitely not. She would definitely disagree too.
With the
fact that I could ever be a foot model.
Really?
Yeah.
I've been pushing.
Well, she doesn't really like feet to begin with.
Yeah, no, but
I mean, if it were up to her, we'd all just be walking around on nubs, because she thinks feet are disgusting.
I mean, I'm not gonna disagree with her.
I mean, you already are, anyways.
What do you mean?
You only have one right now. Functional ankle.
Bro, people have just been punching down this whole week. This whole week just been punching down on this leg.
Well, you're on a little scooter, so you're just down.
I do have a tiny.
You're beneath me, literally.
I have a tiny scooter that I honk, and it makes me feel.
Does it seriously have a honk?
Yeah, I swear.
Little horn.
It's got a little. No, I'm joking, bro. It doesn't have a little horn. I got a little
Can
basket.
Can we put one on there?
I mean,
I will get you a little horn for that scooter.
I'm so hyped because when I fall down in the shower, at least I can honk the horn, and hopefully, my dog can get some help.
Do you think that the listeners of this podcast will have as much ADHD as us?
I hope so. I hope that
because they got to keep up with the constant changing of topics.
I hope the constant tangenting gets better as we progress, but also
probably not.
I hope that today's generational ADD people, which again is caused by the polluted environment, right?
Yes.
It's all coming back now.
Yeah.
I feel like ironically, we were right at the cusp of that. You know, right when they were like, "Listen, we found out what pesticides aren't good, and we're gonna get rid of those." But it's right before they found the other things that they got around the loophole. You know, of like polluting. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
Like whatever other chemicals that were like that guy's sister, that other chemical sister chemical, and like we were perfectly right there, but we still caught a little bit of that, and that's why we have the ADDs.
So let me kind of go back to the whole topic, anyways. I wanted to. So I was asking you what you think like the symptoms are of this, but let me give you what I think is that the symptoms of having this much less testosterone, I think, are basically
bitch titties.
Men are okay. Socially and culturally, men are less aggressive, and to some extent, people might think that is good. Mm-hmm. But what I'm saying, when I mean aggressive, I don't mean physically and ready to punch someone aggressive. Mm. What I mean is they're way less aggressive in chasing their career goal, chasing the girl, not literally, physically, please don't do that, but chasing the girl that they want and chasing their dreams. So that is almost entirely testosterone's job, is to propel us forward and to the next echelon of success, be it romantically or career-wise. So what I'm saying is that this much less testosterone has pushed men downwards in the sense of like they're not really trying to go for more. Now, I think that I have, but I don't know. Like I would assume that I have less testosterone than like my grandfather, but I don't know. So anyways, what I'm trying to say is basically that I think that there's a serious problem in the fact that men are just more complacent. And a more complacent society is not a healthier society. That's just a society that puts up with more. So, for instance, obviously, it's a very, very clear distinction between them raising our taxes by, like, let's say 10% in, like, the matter of a few months or 1 year or 2 years or whatever. And people are just kind of like, okay, that sucks, but whatever. Versus, obviously, our founding fathers, which fought over an escalation, obviously, but the final straw was a 2% tax hike over tea, one product. To be fair, though, there's like 100 things prior to that.
I was gonna say,
it's
I
just,
mean, it's
just
bit
important
more
to just kind of.
multifaceted.
It's just important to kind of like, do you see anybody who's like going to revolt?
You didn't see the bloodshed of Lexington
In today's society over a 2% increase, even if everything that happened beforehand was atrocious and like financially horrific. Do you really see that happening? Like, no, like, but you know, it's a different time, obviously. But it's just what I'm trying to say is that I think that a lot of men are not willing to commit to a higher goal for themselves or for society because of less testosterone.
Wow, you went deep on that one. You went,
yeah.
Might I say balls deep on that one? It was. I find it also ironic that we're doing the first pod of the litmus test on testosterone.
Yes.
That was an unintended
but I like
coincidence there for sure. But I do agree with you. I feel like yes, but also I think that maybe when again the it's really it all comes back down to when the polluted environment. I feel like we traded off the convenience. We said, yo, listen, we're going to trade in this convenience. You guys make whatever you got to make, pump whatever you got to pump into the air, into the water.
Yeah.
I'm cool with it. And then our forefathers were, again, they agreed to it first, right? What was it, the 50s, 60s, the high society, everything was cool, right? Good
sure.
stuff.
Yeah.
Good stuff. And I'm just saying that they said, yeah, I like this lifestyle. I'll trade it in. And then their children started to get poisoned because of all of this processed junk that was getting added to all of our diets.
Oh, yeah.
Knowingly, and then again, of course, unknowingly.
Yeah.
Right? And now you have this generational gap, and you're looking at Pappy, and Pappy's mad at, his grandchild because his grandchild is, going through something right now. I'm not even gonna touch it. Don't even touch it. Don't even touch it. Leave it there. Don't even let it sit. Let it sit right there. Like
let's just say they're floating through life with no real intent.
Floating through life, and they have no drive, and they get upset at these kids. And again, it's like, are you gonna get upset at the kids, or are you gonna get upset at the world by which you consented to? You said, I'm cool with this unraveling all these years.
But hindsight is 20/20. I mean,
I get it.
I don't think that you could suggest right now to me that if like, hey, we're gonna, I don't know, we're gonna apples are going to be blue now. Do you think that that's going to have any long-term effect? And then you give me science and data that says that it's the exact same thing as a normal apple. There's no difference whatsoever.
Sure.
But for some reason it's blue now.
I don't trust.
That's a bad example, but let's just say that let's just say the whole of society believes that okay, that's fine, as long as it's the same thing as an apple. But then 20 years from now, there's horrific things that we find, and there's people with less testosterone, for example, or whatever, and then we're just like, well, you told us that everything would be fine. And so that's pretty much kind of what I'm saying is that the people which in the 50s, they didn't know that this was going to happen. So I at least try to give them a little bit of, like they didn't know that just because a store had a whole bunch of stuff and then for some reason the fabrication plant. No, I agreed.
You thought that cigarettes were good though?
Like
everyone
humans did.
Just universally,
really did.
it was like the world is round. The sun is the center of the solar system.
Yeah.
And last one is, go for it, Blake. What is the last consensus in life?
That the world, so that you said the world was flat.
No, it said the world is
I know what you meant.
The world is round.
Right.
The sun is the center of the solar system, and then the last fact.
I don't know what.
What we were just talking about, dude.
What? Cigarettes are safe.
Cigarettes are safe. Jesus Christ. Those are the three things in
Yeah.
life that they knew scientifically at the time.
Yeah.
In 1960.
But
50.
it's kind of like there's also there's two things. So when people look back at times of where humans did something really stupid, like cigarettes are safe, there were more people than you think that thought that was a stupid idea, but there was also more people than you would think that thought it was okay. Like, it wasn't 50-50. It was never it wasn't like this, oh, maybe, but maybe not. There was like 10% people thought it was bad. I mean, I don't have any numbers backing this because they don't really have numbers backing this at all. But like, there's a lot of different topics that were you would think they'd be polarizing, but they weren't. They were just accepted. So cigarettes were safe was, I mean, I would assume probably 80%, 90% of people just thought that was true because that's what they were told. Yeah. But then there were people who were like, "That's stupid."
Well, weren't reports like covered up too? Like,
of course,
there was, like,
but that's what I'm saying. Like, but there's a natural bell curve in life. I don't know if you know about this.
Tell me about the bell curve,
So
Blake.
there's a natural bell curve in life, and this more tends to leadership.
Okay.
But so 10% of human society is kind of an antagonist. Like, they do not want good for the world. 80% don't care.
Sure.
And the other 10% want to propel us forward.
Okay.
So what that means is that 10%, the ones who are willing to speak truth and denounce everybody which is evil, they are fighting the other 10%. But who's in the middle? The 80%. So if you were to almost apply that to a lot of things like cigarettes were safe, I would imagine 10% of the human population thought, no, there's no way that cigarettes are safe. I feel worse. I have a cough now. My friend has a cough now. How is this helping me? Then there's 80% who just do not care. They don't even want to look at the data because it gives them anxiety. They don't want to listen to anybody talk about this topic. So they're just like, whatever.
And the other 10 just
and then the other
cigarettes.
10 are like the people which are selling cigarettes, which are like, no, it's super awesome. It opens your lungs up. Do you remember that famous picture of the cyclists going uphill?
Oh no.
At the I don't know if it's the Tour de France, but it's one of the major cycling events back in like 1910, and there's a picture, and every single one of them have a cigarette on their side of their mouth because they thought, which actually it does, opens your lungs during the time that you're during the time that you're smoking. Your lungs apparently expand, if you will. But I don't know if that's necessarily true, but that's what they thought. So
I'm going to go ahead and chime in here as a professional opinion.
As someone who knows lungs. Right.
It does the opposite. It constricts
all of the
constricts, yes. I mean, again, any type of smoke that you're bringing in.
Yeah, pretty much anything in the way of between air and
a small pea
alveoli.
You know, if you put a pea down there, it's going to become inflamed. You might even get a nasty pneumonia.
I would imagine.
Pneumonia. But yes, I mean hormones and genetically modified, substances and all that stuff, man. It's the older I get, Blake, the more I realize that the ancients and the old country, they had it right. we messed up somewhere along the road as a society, and I truly feel like the people that are still living that life in the mother country, I still have relatives that are in their 90s back in the mother country, and it's crazy their quality of life. Sure, they have reliable internet access. No, the goat comes around every once a week. I think the Wi-Fi goat.
Yeah,
it's just a goat with a 86-bit. What was the DSL? What was it? One,
I don't know, like 512 kilobyte or something.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Well, it's got it. It's got one
goat.
It's got one really long Ethernet cable attached to it.
But I think what you're saying is it's important because it's like, it's not even that I would suggest that we go back to living that way. But it is very clear that humans, so like humans evolved for like how long? Like 260,000 years or something like that, 200,000 years. And we're having some physical difficulties with the dog here.
It's all right. The dog.
But Remy, she's loving it.
She's trying to get in on the cast.
So if you look at basically 99.9%, 9999% of all human civilization did not have internet, did not have processed foods, did not have seed oils, did not have plastic.
You hate seed oils?
Yeah.
I didn't realize you were a big seed oil hater.
Yeah.
Which one's your
vegetable oil, basically?
Oh, well, I mean, no. Yeah. Because you got to be a little bit more distinct because I actually just
peanut oil, vegetable oil, all the oils that just come from things that are like not oily. I feel like that's wrong. Because also if something
have you seen grapeseed oil being processed?
Yeah.
It takes about like I don't know how many tons of grape seeds.
A lot.
To make like 1 gallon of it.
Right. That's not natural is what I'm trying to say.
Well, I mean.
But also there's evidence.
It's a lot that makes a little. So I trust that.
I mean there's correlating evidence, I should say, not causation, because we don't know yet. But there's correlating evidence just showing that heart attacks were not really a thing up until seed oils. Like obviously people had heart attacks. When you die, you have a heart attack. Your heart stops. But like heart attacks in 40, like a 40-year-old person who had a heart attack outside of like let's say born with a defect in the medieval ages, just weren't necessarily a thing. But we don't really have all of the data.
Didn't they die like at 25
from other things like disease? Obviously,
or just like walking too much. They were like, I've just been walking. Don't have a horse. I'm going to kill myself.
It's
today.
very fair to say that. Obviously, like the people whom, that's a very big discussion. Like the people whom which we thought were crazy, in the medieval ages, they really had something wrong in their brain physically.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But so anyways, what I'm trying to say is that there seems like there's correlating evidence showing heart attacks going up tremendously. Once we introduced seed oils, which was first invented, I think, around the 1890s, but not really fully into play until around 1920-ish.
Well, again, canola oil, processed vegetable oil, that's what we're talking about. Corn oil.
Yeah, like corn specifically would be the best.
Oh, 110%.
Yeah.
And also, that same corn, did you know that corn is the most, and strawberries, 2 of the most highly polluted insecticide, pesticide crops that you can
would
find.
believe it, yeah.
And, it's pretty messed up.
Yeah, so then we're going to be like, what's really great? All of the pesticide condensed into a beautiful liquid.
What's better?
What's better? What's more American than that?
You know what? We shouldn't even spray the vegetables anymore. We're going to sell you the vegetables and then the pesticides. You apply them.
Yes.
Sell them separately. Keep the price
straight
the
to the
same.
source. And it's obviously this podcast is going to be a lot of speculation.
It's going to be a litany, if you will.
It's a litany of litmus tests.
Wow.
But it's going to be a lot of speculation because one thing that we don't have right now currently is that we do not have a way to screen grab our screen, or rather cast it as well. And so in the future we can start discussing like going into articles and actually reading these studies. But until then, it's just easier just to kind of go off of memory and what we believe. And I think that's kind of the more natural way anyways.
And battle that point to the death.
Yes.
And never change your perspective.
Never until I look at evidence. But I'm never going to look at the evidence.
I mean, we'll do a fact check, like one day. Just be like, all right, episode 1.
But see, like even in conversation, we're going to be like, how many times like someone's like, they'll carry a belief for like a decade.
Yes.
And then they'll say it to like hundreds of people.
Gum stays in your stomach for 7 years after you swallow.
Perfect example. We'll say it to hundreds of people, and then all of a sudden, Stacy is like, actually, I'm pretty sure that's not true. And then you're like, really? And what does that happen? What happens? You go straight to the internet, hopefully like that day or the day after, learn that that's not true or whatever. But you and I talking, it's gonna provide a lot of those instances for both of us.
Yes.
And that's so then in the next podcast, we'll be like, I admit that I was wrong.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You can start each cast-sode, You know, that's because I'm just abbreviating everything.
Yeah.
Cast. I just don't get the
Cast sode.
The next cast sode that we do, I just want us to do like maybe a little 5-minute, fact check or like a little acknowledgement,
housekeeping.
Exactly. Just like
just
want to just chime in here and just say when I called Blake a XYZ, I was emotional at the time.
Yes.
And I apologize.
But you know what we could do? We could just take the full audio clip and then just speed it up like 400 times to where it's like within like 10 seconds. And then we could be like, see, that's what we talked about the last episode.
So it's really quick.
Yeah.
I mean, listen.
I think that everybody would benefit from that.
I think that you're doing them a disservice by making them skip over some of this really insightful conversation.
Agreed. But so I guess that's kind of really a good, that's a good stopping point for me, at least, is just kind of discussing like what the symptoms are of testosterone or less testosterone is, and what we think there is. I mean, there's really the next thing would just be solution.
Yeah, I think the solution is to start being more mindful of what you ingest and what companies you support.
Yeah.
I feel like you hit them harder with your dollar than with your vote, right? Because we
saw that in Bud Light, pretty simply.
Right.
Not to get into that whole topic, but we saw that really quickly and fast.
You know, I'm not saying to cancel anybody. I think that's the wrong approach too, just with mob and pitchfork.
Right, but if you don't support, let's say, I don't really want to bring up companies, but if you don't support something that you truly think is not helping the world,
we're gonna dolphin noise it out.
Yeah. That's our bleep sound.
That'll be our bleep sound, because that's in SpongeBob. It was the bleep sound.
Oh, I see.
It's the cursing episode.
As someone who did not watch SpongeBob,
I really like. There's people that are obsessed with SpongeBob, and I'm like, okay, bro, calm down. You're 30. And there's other people that are, you're 30, and I'm like, I quote it, and I look around the room, and everyone's like, nah, bro. And you never feel lower than when someone else looks at you and they're like, you're stupid. They look at you, they're like, I think less of you as a person because I didn't get that reference.
I definitely don't think of anybody. I don't think less of you.
Thank you. I think less of people.
Okay.
That's why I'm saying it from my lens, know? That's why it feels as bad as it does for me.
Gotcha.
But solutions, like I said, man, be more mindful of who you support, what you support, and turn the packaging around and look at what's in your food.
Yeah.
And now it's not just looking. If you can't pronounce it, dude, probably shouldn't eat it. Just, that's a good rule of thumb that I've been going out on.
Can I bring up a good point, though?
Go ahead.
So in Europe, they have laws in which is the same as to ours, right?
Yes, but they actually care about the inhabitants. More so.
All right, so we'll
like 3% more.
I'll concede that just for points for points sake. So interestingly enough, when Europe says, let's just say Germany, when Germany says you must include the ingredients on the packaging, what they mean is if you put butter in there, you can put butter, but that's why a European packaging will look better, or rather the nutritional facts will look better than ours, because our FDA requires you can't just put butter. You have to put what's in butter. And what is in butter? Well, that's like there's like 2 different ingredients for that.
Well, it depends on what type of butter you get.
But then they
some butter just says titty milk.
But then they require
it just says churned.
That'd be funny.
Churned cow titty.
Can we try that?
Tiddy.
Okay. Anyway, so
Tiddy.
Then you could say, all right, well now what's in that ingredient that goes into butter, and then you're getting it down to like a molecule level, and you're like, dude. So no, what I'm saying is that is what the FDA requires a lot of times. So that is why our packaging looks so insane, or our nutritional facts look so insane sometimes, because when you include salt, you can't just put salt.
All right, but have you considered that it's actually just butter in there, and it's like real, like from a cow butter?
Right.
And they're like, I can't get that any lower than the cow butter.
The thing is, I'm not disagreeing with you, because you look at some of these and you're like, that's not butter, or you're like, that's not a normal thing. So what I'm saying is the FDA does require that you separate a lot of the ingredients out to like their base, like actual ingredient, but that doesn't mean that there's not insane processed and stuff that should not be in our food that is in our food. I'm just saying.
Yeah, no, for sure.
That's why sometimes you see that in the nutritional facts. It just looks crazy.
I completely hear you. I had a little aha moment myself. I've been a big margarine guy for the longest time, just because I'm like, I'm trying to cut down saturated fats and try to, you know. Right,
what's in margarine though?
That old adage. So I looked for the first time in a while. I've been getting the same product for a hot minute. 3-pack from a multi-store, multi, where you could buy chickens and TVs at the same time.
And chicken TVs.
Chicken TVs.
TVs for the chickens.
Well, they at this point,
it's the best,
right? Tiny TVs for the tiny chickens. Now, again, getting back to it, the butter, I came to find out that when you get organic grass-fed cow butter, like as good as you're going to get real butter, that's better for you.
Yeah.
That's butter for you. That's butter for you than the margarine would be. Just because of how processed it is. Right. It might say plant-based and give you all of these so much better and this, that, and the other. I'd rather have... If somebody said, listen, this is natural cancer, this is artificial cancer, right?
That's a really good point.
You might as well go natural. If
That's
if you know either way, it ends up the end of the algorithm is the same thing.
That's pretty funny.
And you might as well enjoy it too.
Yeah, I would rather be like, I mean, obviously there's different context matters in this, but the way you just put it out there is like, would you rather like this authentic cancer or this highly scientific man-made? And I'm like, that is scary.
That sounds.
I don't want that.
That sounds. That's super cancer.
Yeah,
you know?
I just want what Bessie gives me. You know, like Bessie doesn't. She doesn't discriminate.
You know, there's super AIDS,
stuff?
right?
Ooh.
You know, there's super AIDS.
Oh gosh.
No, dude, I know. We're going back to it.
Straight into conspiracy.
We're going back to it. No, but there's super AIDS. You can get a super infection. AIDS. And it's referred to as super AIDS. I swear it. Like, this is an actual thing. You guys can look it up. I remember the first time I heard it, I was like, no shot. But we're talking about, admitting when you didn't know something. And I'm giving it to you. I didn't know that butter was better for you than margarine.
Right.
And
well, because sorry, what is in margarine? It's basically vegetable oil condensed down, right?
Yes, it's vegetable oil,
which sounds terrible, but
it doesn't have the trans fats that a lot of vegetable oils that. But
I'm sure it has other things, So
it does.
Anyways.
It does. But with all of that being said, personally, wait, hold on, reel me back in here because you just tangented me so many times.
You were just saying the margarine. You were saying that real butter is better.
Yes, real butter is better. And then what was the second thing?
Don't know.
See what I mean about you?
Yeah,
just come in here hot like a wrecking ball.
So,
but acknowledging things, right? We're saying about acknowledging things. What's good, what's bad.
Yeah.
And when to just say, hey, listen. For 10 years, I had that misconceived notion, and now when I spoke to a couple of people, I looked up some documentaries, and what usually helps? Visual aids. And also, don't come at me aggressively.
Yeah.
I want you to just be, hey, here's some information. Eat it up on your own and digest it. Come back.
Pun intended.
Maybe we talk.
But see, so that's one really easy example of what you were just talking about that happened to me. Sure. Only about 8 months ago.
Sure.
Was where I was at a store.
Sure.
And I found a low sodium version of the bacon that I liked, right? And I was like, great. Let's do that. Sounds like they just put less salt on it, right? Yes, but as I was cooking up the bacon, about, I don't know, probably the third week after kind of just, cooking this low sodium bacon, I started to realize there's way more grease falling off of these. And then I looked at I looked at them and I was like, wow, this thing is like 90% white, which means it's all fat. So what are they doing? They're probably just taking all of the fattiest portions of the bacon and then labeling that as low sodium, not putting as much salt on it. So you are getting what you're asking for. You are getting lower sodium, but you're getting a lower quality. I mean, it's still good. I love bacon and bacon fat. But if I want to try to balance my diet to where it's not just pure fat that I'm eating every morning, then I'm going to go ahead and try to just get the regular stuff, which doesn't have lower sodium. Now, I wish they would just make a lower sodium of a higher quality meat.
True.
But that's just apparently never going to happen unless I go to a butcher. But what I'm saying is...
Where are you shopping? Fucking Western beef here.
But anyways, so it's just kind of, it's simple stuff like that, like, for example, Cheez-Its, a long time, probably about a decade ago, I thought, I'm going to get the reduced fat Cheez-Its. And so I did. And then eventually I was like, I wonder what's on the back of these when I was in the store. And I looked at them, and guess which one had higher sodium content? The reduced fat ones, because you got to make it the flavor somehow. So the reduced fat ones had like 3 times the sodium.
Wow.
Don't quote me on that because I really don't remember, but I just remember being shocked, and I was like, I'm just going to get the regular ones because that's ridiculous.
Wow.
So
no,
it's kind of an interesting,
But that's what it is, man. It's kind of like pull a quarter out of your ear so they could stick a carrot in your butt.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just...
Both are... great,
right? I mean, one's a lot more enjoyable than the other. One you got 25 cents, the other one,
I know.
The other one you got a problem.
I mean,
it depends. It depends on whose it is. Yeah, listen, that's some squirrels do that.
Yeah.
So I think that all in all, I feel like we touched on testosterone. And I feel like that's important because I think the whole reason why we can have this level-headed discussion is because we are so just parched for testosterone that we can sit 2 men in a room soberly and discuss happenings. I feel like that didn't used to happen back in the day. But then again, you could really say that maybe some of the least testosterone-filled people, really got society going in the first place. Like the people that didn't say, "Hey, I want to fight. I just want to fight at all times." Some people got it done with the pen,
right,
and the tongue.
But see, even then, I think that
you need some testosterone to do that.
Yeah, because you need like
some balls.
I mean,
was
it Thomas Paine who wrote The Common Sense to basically discuss all of the evil doings of the British Empire, and just like. That took some balls, because he knew that he would potentially die over that one pamphlet.
Sure, I get you.
So it's a lot.
You're right. It's not just blind rage caveman.
But no, I mean, like, I agree though. Like, yeah, because testosterone's painted as poorly as just this. It's just adrenaline, or like it's just aggressiveness. But it's not. It's not like whenever you feel all hot and you're like very annoyed at someone like that. Sure, that might be testosterone, but that's not just what testosterone is. What testosterone is that, in my belief, is that it also keeps you focused on like something higher, and that you want to go towards that. If you have low testosterone, I think that you're just going to be content.
So you think that religious fanatics just have a lot of testosterone?
Yeah, that's really what I'm getting. That's really the whole point of this episode. I just wanted to talk about them.
We got there.
And we finally got there.
We finally got there. I mean,
yeah.
I'm happy we did it in the midnight hour.
Yep.
I do feel like this was a good little lens to analyze society, pollution, societal changes because of human impact.
Yep.
Both culturally and physically, right?
Yep.
And I think that we're going to be able to explore a lot of other topics in detail. And this was more of a free ball.
Yeah.
Of a type enterprise.
And I think we'll probably have to come back to this anyways at some point, because it's a pretty big topic to begin with. So it's going to come back eventually at some point.
For sure.
Testosterone. So don't worry. If you came here just for testosterone talks, don't worry. We're not going to avoid it forever now.
Well, I was going to say we don't have it, but we can talk about it.
We can talk about it.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, and if you can send some testosterone supplementation into our P.O. box.
Yeah.
That's P.O. Box 751-3.
But I wonder, maybe eventually we'll go get our testosterone checked.
I mean, that would be...
I've never had that happen before.
Where's the baseline, though?
I think it's like around 700 deciliter parts per deciliter or something like that. I mean, we could look it up.
Average test levels.
Something like that, yeah.
The average test
levels. There was actually... there was a pretty infamous video of quote unquote the Try Guys, and they went to go get it tested, and they're all like relatively lean, young, like around 20ish, I think.
Sure.
And they all got tested, and like all 3 of them got really low, like 85-year-old men.
Really?
Low. Yes. Like, I don't know what the level was, but it's like sub 100, sub 200, something like that. But it's not good.
Wow.
But it's interesting because like,
where were they from?
I don't remember where they're from. Literally,
what water they're drinking.
Yeah, But it's interesting because it's
Nancy water.
Like we also didn't discuss like the fact that testosterone literally increases your strength, like pretty much 1-to-1 ratio. I mean, it's like you need it for your bones, your muscles, your tendons. Like you need it.
You're telling me I should take some to heal this foot?
So I don't know where you're at anyway.
I asked the doctor. They told me no.
You really asked?
No, not about the testosterone. I just said, is there anything I can supplement for my foot? And they looked at me. She turned around for the first time in the whole assessment to look at me because she didn't make any eye contact. She just bolted in and just started sitting down, her back towards me.
But this question prompted her to look at you.
She turned around and she said, "Are you stupid?" And then turned back and continued to write notes.
This is a real story, or
It's a real story.
No.
Real story. No, I really. She didn't tell me.
The doctor asked you if you were
stupid. It was a PA. She didn't ask me if I was stupid, but she turned around and she's like, "No, it's just Mother Nature."
I
like
love
very
it.
smug. And I was like,
I like her.
I know for a fact that I can definitely ingest certain things that can help my foot heal faster.
I mean, all we got to do is just ask the local NFL team what their doctor uses.
That's
something in
stem cells from tiny babies.
Probably, yeah.
They
don't even use like the modern stuff. Stem cells. It has to come from tiny babies.
Yes,
right. That's the good stuff.
Well, what I'm imagining is an igloo cooler. It's red and white. You know the one I'm talking about?
Sure.
It's got the slide top.
Slides.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So like it comes. It's just right there. It's kind of almost looks like it's got a figure on it, but it's more goopy.
Right.
And then syringe, just aspirate the whole thing up, and then right into the affected area. That's what I'm imagining.
I like my stem cells like in a Capri Sun.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Kind of like you poke at it.
Yeah,
and it just.
But inside, it's a tiny baby stem cell.
So you have to drink it
goop.
Though. Okay.
Yeah, I like that. That's my preferred method.
But what if
when I'm healing from an ankle injury?
What happens when the straw bends and you can't? When it just you can't get it to the
it's just right. Yeah, it's just part of life.
Right? Okay. All right. So do you ever just like explode it and just get the
out of the hole?
Just like you're.
I have before actually where like the straw messed up, but then I would. Have you ever had it where you poked so hard you went through the bottom?
Of course, absolutely.
Yeah, Capri Suns are crazy.
They are, and they're probably pure cancer.
I would imagine.
It's actually the CA in Caprice is actually short.
Yeah, Cancer Sun.
Cancer Sun. So yes, I hope that you guys follow us on this journey. We've kind of rambled on here for a little longer than we should have.
Yeah,
I'm sure
90% rambling.
Well, we're gonna cut it. We're gonna cut it down
Tiny
a little
bit.
Cut it down like a tree. And we're gonna keep coming at you with the latest haps. We're gonna keep litmusing everything that we can.
Yep.
Send us in some questions, comments, concerns. Actually, don't send me in concerns. I don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear it. I got enough going on. And Blake, anything to add?
No. I think that we'll also start working on literal litmus testing strips that you can hold up to people when they're talking some BS.
Yes.
And then maybe it'll like turn red.
Yes.
If it's BS, and it'll be green if it's not, or something. So the science is on the way. We got our top men on this.
We do
this strip.
I mean, that's what we're.
I don't know when it'll come to market, but that's really the goal.
Well,
here.
we're trying to monetize this podcast to fund the R&D.
Exactly.
For it. So
yes, it's
so the more
takes a while.
You guys listen, the less you'll have to. Find out next time on the Litmus Test.
Thanks, guys.